Ready to dive into the world of Linda Bradford Raschke. She's a trader, and her story is as unpredictable as, well, the markets themselves.
Definitely. And what makes her story fascinating are all the unexpected turns. We'll be looking at excerpts from her memoir, Trading Sardines, which, by the way, isn't just a catchy title.
Right. It comes from this story about a can of sardines being auctioned on a San Francisco wharf.
That's right.
People are going crazy bidding, clamoring to buy this can, only to find out the sardines inside are rotten.
It's a perfect example of what Raschke emphasizes throughout her book. Things aren't always what they seem, especially in the markets.
And that rotten sardine story is more than just a funny anecdote. It highlights something crucial about trading and investing. Even when you think you found a sure thing, the unexpected can happen. It's all about managing risk, doing your due diligence, and accepting that not every trade will be a winner.
Exactly. It's about being a bit skeptical and recognizing that no matter how much research you do, there's always that element of uncertainty.
Which brings us to Roshka's own entry into trading. She didn't take that typical Wall Street path. Picture this. San Francisco, early 80s. She's got degrees in economics and music composition, but trying to find a job as a stockbroker. Tough crowd.
It really shows you her unconventional approach and how she could connect things that seem totally different.
So she ends up at Crown Zellerback, working as a financial analyst. Not exactly the trading floor, but she discovers the Pacific Coast Exchange, this whole other world.
And that's where she really starts honing her skills, diving into the world of options trading.
She even had this great mentor, Jerry. He taught her about patience, about waiting for the right opportunity. He said it was like surfing. You only need a few good waves a day.
It's a great analogy, especially for new traders who might feel like they need to be constantly making trades.
But even with a great mentor, you still learn the hard lessons. And one of the biggest for Rashka early on, humility.
Yeah, and she sums it up perfectly with a phrase that's true in life and in trading. The biggest loss is yet to come.
And she learned that the hard way with a stock called City Service. Imagine this. She rides it up, makes a good profit, feels like she's on top of the world. Then, boom, a surprise takeover offer comes out of nowhere and sends the stock crashing down.
It wiped out all her earlier profits and really showed her that no matter how sure you feel, the market can always surprise you.
It's about respecting that the market does its own thing and that nobody, no matter how experienced, can predict every single move.
Absolutely. And it's this awareness, this humility that helps you get through those tough times and come out stronger.
So instead of letting that loss crush her, Rashka does what any good trader would do. She learns from it. She takes that experience, her bruised ego, and heads east to the Philadelphia Stock Exchange.
And going to Philly was a turning point for her as a trader. It exposed her to this whole other level of intensity, a different kind of trader altogether.
It was like a whole different universe. She describes the Philly trading floor as this chaotic, high-energy environment with its own language, its own cast of characters you wouldn't believe.
It was a real-world education in the markets. Nothing like what you'd read in a textbook.
Exactly. She had to learn to read the room, understand the unspoken rules, and hold her own in this incredibly fast-paced, high-stakes environment. And in this pressure cooker, she had a pivotal encounter. She observed a trader named Jeff Yass, known for his instincts, consistently capitalizing on what she calls aberrations in the market.
This idea of aberrations becomes a core part of her trading philosophy.
So for those of us who aren't fluent in trader speak, what exactly is an aberration?
Basically, it's anything that falls outside of what's considered normal. Many might just see it as random market noise, but Raschke learned to see it as a powerful signal.
Can you give us an example? Help us wrap our heads around it.
Sure. Let's say you have a stock with a typical volatility range, say between 18 and 24. Most traders would buy low, sell high, right? But yes, he'd do the opposite. If the volatility went up to 26, way outside that norm, he'd buy aggressively.
Interesting. So it's about finding those outliers, those moments where the market seems to be behaving irrationally.
Precisely. His reasoning, and what Raschke picked up on, was that if something breaks out of its usual range, there's usually a reason. And that reason, that deviation from the norm, often creates opportunity.
It's kind of like that saying, buy the rumors, sell the news. Except here, it's more like, buy the weird, ride the wave.
Exactly. And this idea of recognizing and acting on aberrations applies to more than just volatility. Raschke learned to see these deviations from the norm in everything, from price patterns to economic data.
So how does this translate for someone who isn't a professional trader? How do we use this idea of aberrations in our own lives?
It's about challenging your assumptions, questioning what everyone else seems to think is true, and being open to seeing opportunity where others just see chaos. And that's a skill that translates to any field. It's about being adaptable, open to new information, and ultimately ready to capitalize on the unexpected.
That's a powerful takeaway. But before we get too far ahead, I'm curious how Raschke goes from figuring out these market aberrations in the middle of the Philly Stock Exchange to having a successful trading career and eventually starting her own business.
Well, that's where things get really interesting. But let's take a second to think about what we've learned so far about Raschke's early days and the important lessons she learned.
Great idea. We've covered a lot. She went from watching sardine auctions to navigating the crazy world of options trading. And through it all, she emphasized how important it is to embrace uncertainty, learn from mistakes, and always be ready for the unexpected.
Absolutely. And I think one of the key takeaways here is that success, whether in trading or anything else, often comes from being able to adapt, learning from what you've been through, and seeing potential where others don't.
And it's that willingness to embrace the unknown, to see the potential in those aberrations, that really makes Raschke different.
Absolutely. But like you said, her story is far from over. She's about to start a whole new chapter, one that involves personal challenges, unexpected opportunities, and creating a trading approach that goes against the grain.
Okay, so we've got the foundation. Now let's see how she takes those early lessons and builds something truly remarkable.
You know, sometimes it's a setback that leads to a breakthrough, and that's what happened to Raschke. She has a pretty bad riding accident, which means she has to trade from her clearing firm's office instead of the trading pit.
Life has a way of throwing those curveballs, right? You'd think being sidelined like that would be a disaster for a trader, especially someone used to the energy of the floor. But for Raschke, it actually helped her improve her skills in a whole new way.
Exactly. She had to become a master of observation, relying heavily on what we call tape reading and analyzing market internals.
Okay, hold on a sec. For those of us who aren't familiar with those terms, could you break down what tape reading and market internals actually are?
Sure, tape reading is all about understanding the language of that ticker tape, that stream of data with stock symbols, prices, and volume, all happening in real time. It's about spotting those patterns, those little hints in the way stocks are being traded. Think of it like trying to read between the lines in a conversation. You're going beyond the words to understand the real meaning. And then market internals are like a broader set of data points. They give you a sense of the overall health of the market, where it's headed.
So instead of focusing just on individual stocks, she's taking a step back, trying to understand the bigger picture, the forces driving the market.
Exactly. And this shift in perspective, this need to use different tools and information, would become so important to her later success. It really sharpened her ability to see the market from different angles, connect dots that others might miss.
It's like she developed this sixth sense, this intuition for how the market moves. But it wasn't just her trading that faced challenges. This is also when she got a difficult health diagnosis, right?
Yes, she was diagnosed with chronic fatigue immune dysfunction syndrome, a tough condition that could have easily ended her career.
It says a lot about her resilience that she didn't let that diagnosis defeat her. But what's interesting is that she credits her recovery, at least in part, to something you might not expect from a high-powered trader: motivational tapes.
Might sound strange, but she found a lot of value in Tony Robbins' teachings, especially his focus on visualization and positive thinking.
So she wasn't just using visualization for her physical recovery, she applied it to her trading, too.
Absolutely. She talks about picturing those successful trades in her mind, mentally going through different market scenarios, and really cultivating a mindset of abundance. And that's something we can all learn from, whether we're trading or just navigating our everyday lives.
It's about taking control of that inner voice, right? Shifting your focus from fear and limitations to possibilities and opportunities.
Exactly. And this shift in mindset, this conscious decision to be positive and believe in herself, became a core part of her trading.
It's interesting how she takes these ideas of personal growth and applies them to something like the stock market, which seems so unemotional.
It's all connected. Trading, like anything else, is just as much a mental game as a technical one. You could have the best, most sophisticated system in the world, but if your head's not in the right place, if you're driven by fear, you're not likely to succeed.
And Raschke was never one to shy away from new technology. This is when personal computers were just starting to become more common, and she was one of the first to really embrace charting software.
Absolutely. She saw how technology could improve her trading, how it could help her see those aberrations, those small shifts in the market, even better.
She talks about this program called Insight that let her analyze data in ways most traders at the time couldn't even imagine.
It shows how she used technology not to replace her intuition, but to make it even stronger. She wasn't afraid to experiment, to push the limits of what was possible.
And this is when she starts to develop her own unique trading systems, moving away from just making decisions on the fly to a more systematic approach.
Exactly. She knew that emotions could be a trader's worst enemy, leading to impulsive decisions and costly mistakes. So she began to put together a set of rules, parameters to guide her trading, a system to help her stay disciplined and objective, even when things got intense.
And she didn't want to just trade her own money. She had bigger goals, right? She wanted to manage money for others, to build a business that would empower others to be successful financially.
Right. She had that entrepreneurial spirit, wanting to share her knowledge and experience. So she took the leap and started LBR Group, entering the challenging world of managing other people's money.
Which comes with a whole different level of pressure and responsibility. You're not just accountable to yourself anymore. You're responsible for your clients' financial well-being.
Absolutely. She had to learn to find that balance between her own trading style and her clients' expectations and risk tolerance, which definitely isn't always easy. And it's here that her ability to connect with people, build trust, becomes just as crucial as her technical skills.
She also had this chance encounter with Liz Cheval, one of the original turtle traders, that really highlights a key part of Raschke's approach.
Oh, yes. Liz emphasized just how important it was to adapt to the changing market. She said the markets are constantly changing, and if you're not adaptable, you're going to get left behind. And that really stuck with Raschke.
It makes sense. Sticking to outdated strategies or what worked in the past can be a recipe for disaster in the markets. You have to be willing to evolve.
Exactly. And it's a principle that applies to more than just trading. Being able to adapt, learn from mistakes, and be open to new information is essential for success in any field.
So we've seen how Raschke took those early lessons, refined her skills through tough times, developed her own way of trading, and even stepped into the world of managing other people's money. But I'm curious to hear about some of the specific moments, the stories that make her journey come alive.
Oh, she has some great ones. And those stories, those glimpses into her experiences, give us valuable insights, not just into the markets, but also into how important it is to find joy, humor, and connection, even in unexpected places.
Okay, I'm ready for those stories. Let's hear them.
Oh, she has some good ones. And those anecdotes, those stories, they give you these little insights into not just how the markets work, but life too.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's hear them.
One that comes to mind is her story about the annual orange juice executive meeting at Louis Dreyfus, this huge commodities firm.
Oh, yeah, the one where they all meet in Brazil, right before a big orange juice report.
Exactly. They had all this inside information, years of experience, tons of data. You'd figure they'd know exactly how the market would react to the report.
You'd think so, right? With all those experts. But Raschke talks about how even with all that, they were always surprised.
It just shows you the market has its own mind. All the research in the world can't predict everything.
It's about accepting that uncertainty, that element of surprise.
Exactly. And, it's something that often trips up new traders. They think if they just have enough info, if they can just crack the code, they'll be in control. But the market doesn't work that way.
It's about being okay with not knowing everything, with those surprises.
Absolutely. And that reminds me of another great story for the book about when she went to see Leo Melamed, the former chairman of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange.
Oh, right. She goes to his office, this incredibly successful, powerful guy, and what does she see?
Charts. Hand-drawn charts. Can you believe it? This legend, surrounded by amazing art, still drawing his charts by hand.
It's such a great image. It tells you something about staying grounded, remembering the basics, no matter how successful you become.
Absolutely. And it highlights something Raschke talks about a lot. Always keep learning. No matter how much you know, there's always something new to discover.
And she loved connecting with people, too. Her book is full of these amazing characters, like her trader friend Frank, who had this incredible setup in his basement.
Oh, you mean his mission control? With all the rifles and gadgets, who knows what else he had down there.
Exactly. And it just shows you the trading world attracts all kinds. It's not all suits and Wall Street talk.
And Frank wasn't just about the tech. He knew how to have fun, too.
Mm.
Remember that story about how he'd take Raschke and her daughter on these crazy adventures?
Oh, yeah, like tearing through the countryside in his Hummer or those high-speed motorcycle rides or on his jet ski. Frank sure knew how to live.
It shows you that even in a stressful job like trading, you need balance. You need an outlet, a way to enjoy life outside of the markets.
And Raschke definitely got that. She really enjoyed life, found joy in the little things, even when things were tough. And it brings us back to one of her most memorable lines. Profits are like eels, how easily they slip away.
What a great line. It reminds you to stay grounded, to not take anything for granted. Because in the markets, just like in life, things can change so quickly.
It's about enjoying the ride, the ups and downs, the good and the bad. Because it's all those experiences that shape us, teach us.
Definitely. And that's what makes Raschke's story so great, so inspiring. It's not just about being a good trader. It's about becoming a better, stronger person.
She shows us that success isn't just about money. It's about being open to whatever comes your way, finding joy in the unexpected, and never forgetting what really matters.
Absolutely. And that's something we can all take with us no matter where life takes us.
And there you have it, another fascinating deep dive, this time into the world of Linda Bradford Raschke, a true original.
Definitely one of a kind. Until next time.